Yeah, that is really interesting. I'm noticing definitely some commonalities, some threads. My best friend growing up was black. We were from just south of St. Louis, about a half hour south, and we were tight.
Correct.
Freshman year on, we were boys. So just going to lunch every day and figuring out where we were going to sit was like a chore, because if I sat over here with the black folks, then I know white folks are talking about me.
Right.
But if he sits over here, he's a little uncomfortable at times. But he was a good kid. He was a good guy. And so I would sit over with him, and I just had a great time with his friends and some of the girls. I started to, they liked me. I liked a couple of the girls. So my cousin, I had two other cousins. They'll probably be listening to this. One of my cousins came up to me one time, and I'm probably in 10th grade, 10th grade.
Right.
And she says, Scott, a lot of my friends think you're cute, but they don't want to talk to you if you talk to black girls. And I was like, man, I can't win here, So that was just me. That was like a little unfortunate day.
Sure.
Fast forward years later, and I'm talking to my friend Mark,
Right.
and he says, dude, do you know, we had just this all night talk, and which we often do, and he says, do you know how hard that was for me? He said, I would go to that table. He got good grades. He said, I would go to that table, and they would pressure me to do bad. In fact, if I was doing well, they would clown me. They would make fun of me, and to where like I felt so, it was so difficult for me, he said, to just be me. I had my parents telling me to do well,
right.
And then I had all the black kids that I was accepted with telling me, oh, you trying to get A's, you trying to be this and this and that. And I noticed changes in him, like with music and with culture. And he started talking a little bit different. And he was like, all of that was, I was going into survival mode. And he's telling me this years later. We're 40 years old, he's telling me. And I'm like, this is glorious that you're telling me this, but why didn't you? And he was like, I didn't know how to say it to you, man. I didn't know.
No doubt.
You just got to do it, man.
You just got to do it.
A lot of us don't have white friends to talk
Yeah,
to.
to say that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
again, talking about keeping it inside,
That's
we've been through the
exactly
same
it.
thing.
No doubt. No
I've
doubt.
been told before, like, oh, you get A's? Oh, you a nerd.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Lame.
I got an F.
Trying to be white.
No, and I got an A. Like,
So you're telling me you had to lie about your grades?
Yes.
I told him I got A's.
Absolutely, man.
Fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go into
fight.
an all-white school.
Yeah.
All white
Like-
school.
You like I forget which one said it, but you have to dip into the two different worlds.
Exactly.
You have to talk one way,
Yeah.
and then when you're around your people, you got to talk another way. Otherwise, you get that. Oh, you trying to talk white?
So-
You trying to act white? Come on.
So every black person in that sense, we speak two different languages.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. We can speak two
Yeah.
different languages.
English is
Yeah.
the second language.
Yeah.
English
is the second language.
English is the second language.
Absolutely.
So I speak English. They trying to get you to teach learn another language, man.
I think even one senator said it about Obama, that
So true.
he when he was running, that how he is able to go into one world, the political world, and talk
Correct.
with good diction and good vocabulary, and then swing back and talk to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it? Would you say that's a bad thing? What would you say? What would you say about that?
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It's a needed thing. Sometimes you have to be able to do that. All of us can relate to being around white folk, and we have to try to make them feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we go out being us 100%, some of them not the reaction back may be like, I've been at my job for 33 years, and I'm the only black guy there. Been the only black guy there for 33 years.
Really?
And there are still some things that I just stay away from. My boss told me one time, there was one, I remember, there was something, some guy got angry and sued his company because they said the N-word. And he said to me, Wayne, we was at lunch and he was driving. He said, Wayne, I would really be upset with you if you sued us over something like that? I laughed. I said, well, don't say the N-word. And I put you.
It's real simple.
Never see. I would never see you. But I think it's good that we're able to go into our two different worlds. You know, almost like a professional world, and then our relaxed world where we can sit back and relax.
Here's the thing, though. Do white people do that?
They don't.
That's
So
part of the
why
privilege.
should we?
Let me
Yeah, we gotta survive.
let me say one thing to that, Kevin,
There you
because
go.
this is
Interesting.
maybe going to sound strange, but when I go into the prison, I go into the youth facility in St. Charles and preach the gospel, and sad to say, it's 80% young black men.
Yeah.
But if I go in there and talk like, how do I say this? If I can't relate to those guys, then they ain't hearing me. And so when I go in there, and I'm not saying I fake it or but I can relate to those guys. And you, I think you said it best. You said it's needed. So vice versa, if I go in there and I think Jesus came from another realm, another world, and he came and he talked to us about things that we know, birds and seeds and water and things. So to be relatable, I think these are the conversations that need to happen.
I think the thing about Jesus, though, was him being as high as he was, he came down.
Yes, sir.
And the problem that we have is the only people, we're forced to come up. You know what I'm saying? So, and not to say, up as in white is right, but up in the stance that if we want to survive in the world that we were born in order for us to excel in anything, we have to enter into the white world.
Right.
Whereas a white child, a white person doesn't have to enter into our world in order to survive, in order to be successful.
real
Like
Exactly right.
we are, there's only maybe one or two of us in their world at any given time, and if they have the luxury of not having to really deal with us,
That's so
where
true.
we don't, we
Real
have
talk.
to deal with
Yeah.
somebody who's of European heritage
so
in
true.
order to attain mastery, autonomy, or purpose. If we're going
You know,
for it,
that's powerful, man.
So it really seems like a different world to you guys. Like white world is like a separate planet in a way. Like
So
a different
different country.
Yeah.
Different,
Yeah. I almost committed probably worst mistake ever probably in the last 2-3 years of my life as I've become like I'm getting older and my values are starting to bleed through and who I am is starting to bleed through. So I'm in corporate and I've been suppressing what I call Southside Shy. You know what I mean? And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, I've learned this corporate language.
Okay.
And I'm getting tired. Like when I eat lunch, I want to talk like I talk. I don't want to, if I'm saying, hey, excuse me, I want to say, hey, let me holler at you for a sec. Like, I want to talk how I talk. And so I literally, man, it was probably about a good year or two, and I had some older ladies in the job, and they would laugh at me. And then I called one of the girls over.
Wait, why would they laugh, you said?
Huh?
Why would they laugh?
Because of this identity crisis I'm going through. It was like, man, I'm going through it. And so it was
Interesting.
this black girl, she's a manager in accounting, and I'm like, man, what would you think if I went in my boss's office right now and said, hey, let me holler at you for a second. How you think she'll respond? And she looked at me, she was like, Rashad. And so it wasn't until, I shifted churches and I went and talked to this pastor, a black guy's older guy, and I said, man, I'm struggling. Like it's getting to the point where stuff is slipping out.
Yeah.
And I can't hold it anymore. Like it's just coming up.
Right.
And he said, man, he essentially said, Rashad, he said, he became all things to all people. And he said, you need to be able to enter into all these different worlds, and God will use you in each of these different worlds.
I love it.
And he spoke that to me, and it was just like,
That's a good point.
it was a seed for me. So now when I went back to work, it was still hard, but now I'm in a space now where it's like, okay, Rashad, you from the South Side. Check. Rashad, you corporate. Check. Rashad, you a church dude. Check. And I'm all those things. And so depending on where I go and who I talk to, I am all those things, and I have the ability to adjust as needed. Now, if I get into a place of like where he's talking about where I'm out on the street, like my son, some of this stuff is passing on unintentionally. And so he
Habits.
gets to school, and I think he used the word ain't or something like that. And so the teacher's like, Rashad, that's not the proper word. He said, my dad uses it, so it was good. And so it's like I had to sit,
He
I
makes
laughed.
more than you.
Parentheses.
Man, I sat there and I was like, man, I'm sitting here and this is unintentionally, this is me, this is where I come from. And then my other son, he's like, you'd think this kid grew up on the south side of Chicago. I'm like, dude, you are like, we live way out in the boonies, man. Like, my kids they the only black kids, and so it's like, but you look at his dancing, you look at how he talk. I mean, I look at him and laugh because I'm like, I don't even go around family like that, so I don't even know. My wife is like, but it's the same, it's they'll have the opposite of the shift. So now when they go around,
I see.
They already they talk white per se, and so they have the opposite.
Yeah,
so now when they go in, they're proper English and all of that, and so when they go in there, they're like, Dad, what does that mean? Dad, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And so it's difficult because I don't like it, but without the lesson that I had in the last year and having a few people pour into me like, we get it, we understand.
Yeah.
But this is necessary, and I have to pour that into, my children because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You mentioned that, sometimes, people like, how do you define blackness? I don't think there's one way you can define it, in terms of, I only can tell you what it means to be a African American male in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, in the context in which I live.
Yeah.
Follow me? I can't tell you what it means to live like that in the south side of Chicago, or you go in Atlanta, or you go into New York or LA, because I haven't lived there and breathed that environment. But the northwest suburbs of Chicago, I can tell you, because that's I can tell you my experiences, what I've experienced, and some of us all around the world, there's a thread in which we all feel, you know what I mean? There's a common thread we all feel no matter where you at in this country. But also there's some experiences that may look different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Based on where you're located at and where you've been raised.
I think one of the things that you brought up that I was thinking about is, like with my son, he is a regular cul-de-sac kid. You know what I'm saying? And there's stuff that, I had to learn at his age that he may not have to learn. And I'm concerned for him because there are values from my culture, but in order for him to be safe, I had to move outside of my culture and be around. And like that was one of the things that always irritates me. It's like I have to, in order for me to have safety, there's never a place where I've grown up or seen where it was predominantly black. So I'm from Bronx, New York, where it was like the only white people were cops and teachers. That was it. And so the first time I moved outside of that context and a white person was nice to me, I thought they were trying to sell me something. I thought they was trying to hustle me. Because the only people I ever saw were cops and teachers. So, there are values.
And third base and BC Boys.
Oh, I thought they were black. I didn't know about BC Boys, but I thought third base was just real high yellow, just up there.
Depending on what color your TV is.
Right. It's like, you rap? Oh, okay. Well, you sort of black. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to get my dude Rico Suave in there. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand. But anyhow, there are values that you learn coming up out of the hood that you want your kids to have. Like there's street smarts.
Street smarts.
Like a certain way you carry yourself. A certain way. So like you don't have to fight every fight, but if people know you're willing to fight, you don't have to fight. Just certain stuff.
Good stuff. That's right.
Yeah.
Whereas like if he doesn't understand that, and so like to a certain extent, it's like I have to bring him around people who are still in that context. But I have to inoculate him or get him, cover him because I know he's out there with no armor on. Whereas I was forced to have armor as a kid or forced to understand the social cues that he doesn't. And so it's like, to a certain extent, you know, like I've had to become an amphibian, where it's like, you know, I have two different worlds I could live in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where, you know, it's like in order for me to get him into that world, I have to give him scuba gear. You know what I'm saying? So it's a weird situation. We have no place that I've seen where it's like black people are together because they want to be together, where we want to be a community. Normally, from my experience, black people are together because poverty has put us together.
Yeah.
Or because that's where the steel mill was. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where the job was. And that's where they redlined black people in the 60s to be. And we just kind of stayed here. You know.
You're talking about amphibious. I like that. You always have these cool, catchy descriptions that sometimes I steal from you. But, you know...
appropriation!
Trademark. But, you know, being a white man, I can sit down in a white situation and hear things that they wouldn't say if you were there with me, or if you were there in this circle. I can sit on a plane and I can hear somebody's thoughts that they think they can get away with because I got the complexion for the connection, if you know what I'm saying. I'm white. So I can sit down and all of a sudden I'll hear these little blurbs or little, and through my life, because my ears have now perked up to it, because, you know, my eyes got open at a young age, you know, to see these things. I'm kind of, you know, this is going to sound weird, but I'm almost in disguise. I'm almost amphibious in a way, because you just hurt me. You know, you just hurt my brother that you don't even know, that ain't like what you think he's like. And this is you know, 1% of my life,
right.
And what I'm hearing is a huge percentage of your life and so this is good stuff. But I want to.